Right, welcome back to Last Second Sports. We are giving you our take down to the last second, and it's the trade deadline. It's come and gone. The biggest thing that's happening today, as far as I know, I mean, I've looked at everything that's happening around the world, happening around America, and this was it. This was the big thing today that I saw on the calendar, but nothing big for the San Francisco 49ers. They got Khalil Davis. I'm going to give you a little bit about him, and then we can actually, if you want, we can watch a little bit of film. I just pulled up the Houston Texans game from last week, so we can just check him out. I don't know how much he played or didn't play. I really don't know a lot about him. What I do know, though, is that he's 28 years old. He's 6'2", 310 pounds. He's played 172 total snaps this year. And PFF is not gospel, but out of 201 defensive linemen, he ranks 133rd in pass rush defense. And in run stop defense, he ranks 111th out of 201. So not a lot. Nothing great here. It's a depth piece, but I don't know, not a lot to be excited about at this point. I said the only way that the 49ers can come up losers is if they either make no trade, or excuse me, if they make no trade. Like that's the only way. If they trade people away and realize, hey, it's time to move forward, great. If you make a trade, then that says you still want to compete. That's great as well. They technically made a trade, so I guess they didn't stand pat, but this is about as close to standing pat as you can go. And it kind of gives me mixed feelings about the San Francisco 49ers. I believe I this is where it's tough for me, is because I believe that they did try to make some big swings. I believe that they called on guys like Simmons and others, and no team was willing to make a big splash trade. They weren't willing to give up enough, or teams just weren't interested. And ultimately, it's like, well, you can go get an ancillary piece like Godcho from the Patriots, who is better than Khalil Davis, but not much better. And so those are the other moves available to you. Unless you want to overpay or just make a bad trade, these are the things that happen. And so this is where we're at. This is where we are at. This was the move. But there were a lot of moves made around the league, a couple within the division, players getting shipped out, players coming in, and then ones that were made on contending teams that makes them better. And so this is a tough one to look at. But one thing that we do have to talk about is that the San Francisco 49ers are getting two elite names back. We'll see what they are as far as players. I mean, both of them are coming off of Achilles injuries, very different nature. But CMC coming off of an Achilles injury, two Achilles injuries, and Greenlaw coming off of an Achilles injury. So, it's we'll see. We'll see how much that takes away from their athleticism. But I don't think there's a bigger name that you could have added as 49ers that is bigger than CMC or bigger than Greenlaw. So from that standpoint, it's not like there's not an influx of talent that's not coming back to the 49ers. There is an influx of talent coming. It's just not coming via trade. Jennings will be back, should be back this week as well. So that's also very, very helpful. So that's where it's at. That's where it's at. Jamaican Boy says what they didn't do today is going to get them fired. Maybe. Maybe. I also think like we can look into it and say, okay, well, they didn't make a move. So that means they don't think they're competitive. And I don't know if I necessarily look at it like that. I think on the surface, like that's probably the right way or the knee-jerk way to look at it. But again, I think they tried to make big moves. I do. I just don't think they were there to be had. I think, let's say they offered a first and a fifth for Simmons. And the Titans are like, no, we want two firsts or a first and a third. Okay, well, do you really give up a first and a third? That's pretty steep. And then you've got a guy on your books for 22 million, hell of a player, but what do you do going forward, especially if you don't win it this year? And now you've traded draft capital, you've added a ton to the books. So at some point, like, it just gets too rich for the 49ers to make a move. This is what we talked about during the offseason. We talked about the cap implications going forward. We talked about how moving on from guys like Armstead and not having them on your team really can impact things. But also not just from them not being on the team and playing, but you're paying them. Well, you're technically not paying him, but the books are paying for him. The salary cap is paying for him to not be on the roster, not only this year, but next year. And those things all start to add up. So, how much can you really pour into this position? You go get a Jeffrey Simmons, and he's 22 million. Then you're paying Armstead 17 million to not be on the books, plus whatever it is that you've got to pay Hargrave. It's like, man, you have so much put into this position, and really only one of these guys is playing for you. It just makes it really, really tough. Just makes it really, really tough. Jamaican boy, it's been a while since I've seen you, man. I know you pop in and out when you can. Good to hear from you. Hopefully the kiddo's doing good. But Jamaican boy says, I'm with you. They should have traded people away. They should have been sellers. And, we'll see. They win a Super Bowl, then it's an awful take. But if they don't win a Super Bowl, it's probably the right take. It's just not something that the 49ers were actually going to do. And we know that. We know that. Let's do this. Let's watch a little bit. Not a lot. We don't have to watch a lot. But let's watch a little bit of the new 49er here and see if there's anything that's worth checking out. You know what I mean? Oops. Here, let's try this. Let's try this. Okay. That down. All right, this. All right, let's take a look here. And actually, here we go. There we go. Okay, so number 94, that's what we're looking for here. Number 94. God, their jerseys are really washed out, aren't they? It's hard to tell. Guess we're going to have to wait till we get up close here. Not in on this snap. Okay. Still not in. Still not in. Again, he's rotational, so you're not going to see a lot of them. Still not in. Let me make sure. Let me make sure it's number 94. I'm pretty sure that's his number. Yeah, number 94. Okay. Okay. Still not in. And this might be a tough watch. We'd be watching a lot of this Jets Texans game, won't we? Just to see if we can get a glimpse at old 94. Clearly, he's not a heavy rotational player because they traded him for nothing, and it seems like he's not getting on the field, huh? Oh, hold on. Think we have a sighting. We might have a sighting here. Here we go. Right side. Am I tripping? Is this a 9-4? Hey, there we go. All right, missed tackle. First time in. Good job. Good work. Good work. Here he is right here on the right side of the line, right interior side. Makes a nice little move, gets over there, and then can't make the tackle. I believe he's still in. He's still lined up over the left guard here. Yeah, there he is, right over the left guard. Good effort, at least. Plays with good effort. We'll give him that. That's for sure. I'm just excited that we have a Kalia and a Khalil Davis. There we go. Now he's lined up over the where are we at? How far in are we? 8 minutes, 32 seconds. Hold up. All right. He's going to be lined up right here over the right guard. Looks like he was kind of held there, yeah. Yeah, maybe held a little bit. You can see him right here. Either that or that was just a really weak move. Probably a little bit of both. Still not in. Still not in. Hey, he's in on this one. There we go. Look at that. He made a nice little move here. Check him out. Here we go. Sheds the block. Look at him. Coming in, tackling Brees Hall a little bit, helping out, huh? Not bad. He's lined up over here, over the right guard, between the right guard and the right tackle. Nice little athletic move. Okay. Okay. See you, Davis. See you. Lined up again over the right guard. Okay. Nice little spin move, though. Just got fooled. Not in here. Not in here. So you can see he doesn't play a ton. Does not play a ton. Was not in on that play. Not in here. Jeez. I wish I had known that he was going to get traded to the Niners. I would have been able to comb through this and timestamp things. Would have been a much better watch. Apologize. I just want to get a glimpse at him. All right, listen. This is hard to watch. He's not special. How about that? We know he's not special. I guess there's that. We know he's not special, so whatever. Okay, let's do. There we go. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right, let's talk about some things that have happened around the league, because there's definitely some things that happen around the league that do impact the San Francisco 49ers. So we know Khalil Davis, now a San Francisco 49er. Meh. All right. For those of you that just joined, here's what we know about him. We just watched him a little bit. Nothing special. He's 28 years old. He's 6'2", 310 pounds. He's played 172 total snaps this year. He ranks 133rd out of 201 defensive linemen in pass rush grade, ranks 111th out of 201 defensive linemen in run stop grade. So you're getting a rotational guy. All right. Now the Cardinals, they made a trade for edge Baron Browning from the Broncos. Who's Baron Browning, you ask? Well, not a bad little player. The Cardinals, their biggest issue really has been their ability to get after the quarterback. Now, they drafted a young edge rusher who I believe might be making his debut this week, finally. He's missed really the whole season. So they're going to add him to Marcus Robinson to the lineup. But they've also traded for Baron Browning. Now, Baron Browning he's a pass rush specialist. He has 9.5 sacks over the last 2 years. He's a good player. He wasn't getting a lot of burn this year with the Denver Broncos just because they have other young players that they're trying to promote. He's a good player, though. He is a pretty good player. I'm not going to say very good, but he's good. It's a good addition for the Cardinals. That's a win. Much better than the addition than the 49ers got. But again, the 49ers are just simply more talented than the Cardinals. But the Cardinals having trouble with pass rush, adding a pass rusher plus getting their rookie, they should be a better pass rush team down the stretch because of it. The Detroit Lions added Zadarius Smith. This is something that I talked about a couple weeks ago where the 49ers were going to possibly look to add an edge. And if that was the case, because of the injury to Aiden Hutchinson, they were going to compete with the Detroit Lions when it came down to an edge rusher. I'm sure the 49ers looked into Zadarius Smith, and they weren't the only ones. But ultimately, the Lions land him. This is a nice get. No, he's not Aiden Hutchinson, but they're better now than they were last week. All right, because this team didn't have Aiden Hutchinson in the last couple of weeks. They're better now. This is a team that is a really, really good run-stopping defense. Really good run-stopping defense. I think they're number one right now as far as yardage given up. And then they've added a pass rusher. And Detroit Lions look really good right now. This was a move that they needed to make, and they got better. The Commanders added Marshawn Lattimore. We know about Marshawn Lattimore. Hell of a player. He's been upper echelon corner for a while now in the NFL. And this was a big ad for them. A lot of teams were in on him. It sounds like the Chiefs were in on him. The Ravens, we know for sure, were in on him. But the Commanders go and get Marshawn Lattimore. Now, this is a piece that doesn't necessarily impact the 49ers right away, but this is a team they could play in the playoffs. That's a nice ad for them. They're struggling in pass defense. And the 49ers and them might be fighting for that 7th seed, a wild card spot, potentially. It's one of those teams that we'll be looking at a little bit later as far as a race for 10, I'm going to call it. So Marshawn Lattimore was added from the Saints to the Commanders. That's a big get. The Chiefs, we know, added Josh Uche from the Patriots a couple days ago. He had 11.5 sacks in 2022. He has 2 sacks this year. Rotational pass rusher. This is a nice get for the Kansas City Chiefs, who also have Charles Omenihu. We know a lot about him coming back. Remember, he tore I believe it was his ACL right before the playoffs last year. He'll be back soon as well. So their defense is going to get better from a pass rusher standpoint. They also added DeAndre Hopkins. A lot of people thought he was washed. Well, he got 2 touchdowns last night. So don't know how washed he is. That was a big ad. The Ravens added Deontay Johnson, wide receiver from the Panthers. He's I'd say mid-tier number 2 wide receiver. Really good route runner. I think he fits perfect for the Baltimore Ravens. And then they added Tre'Davious White from the Rams. White's a big name, but he's simply washed, or so it seems. I don't understand why they added Tre'Davious White, but they did. The Bills added Amari Cooper from the Browns. That happened about 2 weeks ago. This is a team that the 49ers have to play here in a couple weeks. That was a big ad for the Buffalo Bills. We know he's a very good player. And then the Bengals today added Khalil Herbert, running back from the Bears. Not really much impact on the 49ers. And then the Cowboys added Jonathan Mingo, because when you make one bad trade, sending a 4th rounder for Trey Lance last year, why not make a second bad trade, sending a 4th rounder for Jonathan Mingo? So that's what the Cowboys did. Again, really no impact on the 49ers. The Cowboys are trash. The Steelers added Mike Williams, wide receiver from the Jets. We know they were in heavy pursuit of Brandon Ayuk this offseason. They go and get a wide receiver. They were looking for that depth. And then, in a weird one to me, they added Preston Smith from the Packers. Now, Preston Smith hadn't really been fitting well into what the Packers are doing defensively this year, but he's still a depth piece. And they also have 2 really, I wouldn't say really good, but like promising young edge pieces that they probably want to get more playing time for. But I don't understand trading a depth piece regardless of what it looks like. But they decided to trade Preston Smith to the Steelers. I don't know if it'll have a big impact on either team. He is a little bit older, but those are the moves that were made. I guess I would say, a Packers team that the 49ers are going to be competing with potentially for a playoff spot. The 49ers adding Davis is better than trading Preston Smith, right? So not the worst thing in the world, I guess. Could have been worse. This guy says, let's be honest. I'm good with whatever. Selling would have been nice. Rebuild. Thinking the Niners are legit contenders this year is a mistake unless the second half shows something different. But Kyle will Kyle. Okay. Matt says Davis played 39% of the defensive snaps. Okay. We just watched this last game. Sounds like looked like he fell out of the rotation pretty heavy this last week. I don't know how many snaps he played this last week, but it didn't look like 39%. So maybe they just said, we're good, KC Cold says, appreciate you trying to make us feel better, bro, but they traded for a rando. Should have got the dude from New England. Yeah, he's not much better, though, if I'm being real. Not much better. Pop says Grant was right. Again, the Yorks weren't happy with Lynch and Shanahan this offseason and their moves. They didn't give Lynch the green light to make moves at the trade deadline. Yeah, I don't know about that. I just think that the big move that they wanted to make was not available to be made. I do believe that. And I think that making a move for a piece that's just not very good, like Godshell from the Patriots, and trading a 5th rounder doesn't make a lot of sense either. So this is the move they decided to make. And here we are. Here we are. All right, let's talk a little bit about the playoff outlook. So here's how I see it. Obviously, the 49ers, to make the playoffs, are most likely going to have to win the division. But there is an outside chance that they can get in without winning the division. But there's a race to 10, essentially. A race to 10 wins across the NFC. Basically, 10 wins is going to get you in, is the way that I see it. All right. If you win 10, you're most likely in. And even then, I guess if you're at the tail end of 10, you didn't win a division, then there's going to be tiebreakers and what have you. But 10, you're most likely in. So let's take a look at it real quick. Let's look at the competition across the NFC. The Eagles to get to 10 wins. The Eagles to get to 10 wins have 9 games to play. They need 4 wins in 9 games. They're most likely going to get to 10. The Commanders need 3 wins to get to 10. They need 3 wins in 8 games. They're most likely going to get to 10. The Vikings need 4 wins in 9 games to get to 10. They're most likely going to reach 10. So that's 3 teams that are likely in the playoffs. The Lions need just 3 wins in 9 games to get to 10. They're in the playoffs. The Packers need 4 wins in 8 games. 49ers and Packers play. That one really might be the game that the 49ers need to win to own a tiebreaker. So if they both end up with 10 wins, neither of them win their division. That's a big one. That might be the difference. So that Packer game is a big one for the 49ers. Packers need 4 wins in 8 games to get to 10. The Falcons, who are most likely going to win their division anyways, need 4 wins in 9 games. The 49ers, to get to 10, need 6 wins in 9 games. Now, that's a lot more daunting than the rest of these teams. However, their division is in a very similar situation. The division, the Rams, need 6 wins in 9 games as well. The Cardinals need 5 wins in 8 games. So a little bit ahead of the pace. The Rams and 49ers need 6 wins in 9 games to get to 10. The Cardinals need 5 wins in their final 8. Both can lose 3, essentially. They've just played one more game. And then the final team that might be competing is the Bears. They need 6 wins in 9 games. We can throw Tampa into that as well. They're at 4-4, 6 wins in 9 games. But listen, if the 49ers lose, the 49ers beat Tampa, Tampa is like in their rearview mirror, not a big deal. If the 49ers lose to Tampa, the season's like, I know I've been saying like it's over, it's over. What I'm saying is they're not going to win a Super Bowl in my opinion. So it's over. But as far as making the playoffs, the 49ers have a big chance here. They really have all the games in front of them they need to make the playoffs. Like you beat the Bucks, you beat the Packers, you beat the Rams, and you beat the Cardinals. You're basically in, right? So those are the wins that they need to get. I expect them to beat Tampa. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a banged up team. They just played on Monday Night Football in overtime. They got to fly back home. But we can throw them in here just for a team's sake. 6 wins, 9 games. So let's assume Eagles, Commanders, Vikings, Lions, Falcons are in. Those are your 5. Now, the 49ers, let's assume they don't win the division. Let's say the Rams do. The Rams get their 6 wins in 9 games. They beat the 49ers. So now the 49ers can't win the division. The 49ers and Cardinals, or vice versa. If the Cardinals win the division, the 49ers and Rams will be in a tight race. So that game becomes important. Or the 49ers and Cardinals will be in a tight race to see who can finish second in the West. And then the 49ers and the Packers will be in a tight race as well. They play all these teams. It's literally right there in front of them. It's not going to be easy, but it is doable. But 6 wins in 9 games is a big ask when the 49ers have yet to beat a team with a winning record. They've yet to win 2 in a row. I expect that to change this week. But this is where the 49ers are at. This is where they're at. Starting 4-4 puts you in this situation. And the reason this year is different than the years in the past where they've made this run is because the NFC is just simply better. The NFC is simply better than what it's been in the past. Like, let's look at last year's NFC teams. The Detroit Lions were the second best team in the NFC. All right. They're the ones that pushed the 49ers to the brink in the NFC Championship. They were the second best NFC team. I would argue, experience for experience, roster for roster, that same Detroit Lions team is certainly worse than they were last year. They're much better this year. So that team's already improved. I think this year's Eagles team is better than last year's Lions team. I think this year's Packers team is as good or better than last year's Lions team. And I think this year's Rams team is as good or better than last year's Lions team. just from a roster standpoint. From a roster standpoint, obviously injuries have happened and records wouldn't indicate that. But I think those 4 teams are at least as good as last year's Lions team, if not better. So you're looking at a completely different NFC than you were last year. Completely different. And one thing we do know, I mean, we can basically write this off. The San Francisco 49ers are essentially one loss away from not being able to even get the first seed. We basically know that they're going to go on the road at some point in the playoffs. Now, if they win their division, round 1 they'll be at home, and then after that they'll probably be on the road. Most likely is how it will play out. I guess, seeding would matter from there, but good chance they're on the road after that. And that's a lot different. You don't get the bye week. You're going to have to play on the road. And imagine, let's say round 1 you win the division and you play, I don't know. Let's say the 7th seed is the Packers. So you play the Packers at home round 1, and then round 2 you're on the road and you have to beat Philly and then follow that up with Detroit. I don't know how great I feel about that. Packers, Philly, Detroit. If that's your path and only one of those is a home game, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know how to feel about teams like Philly. Philly's got a great roster. If you saw that Saquon Barkley move last week, my gosh, that dude's insanely good. People forgot how good he is. But Sirianni's an awful coach. I mean, he did everything he could to lose him last week. Can they overcome it? Now, I will say the defense is playing much better now than they were early in the season. Vic Fangio's finally getting them to figure things out. So their defense for the first time in 2 years is actually decent again. And I would say their offense is certainly better than it was last year. You add somebody like Saquon Barkley. So they're in a better spot from the position coaches, but Sirianni will Sirianni. And whether it was him that made those 2-point calls or not, he didn't stop it. You just can't do that. You just can't do those things. So the Eagles are interesting. I still want to see more of them, but just from a race to 10 standpoint, 49ers are most likely going to have to win their division. And it's going to be really, really tough to do. Really tough to do. Yeah, I'm putting the Bears in there just because, right? But I don't know. What's up, Raider? I'd rather just get a good spot in the draft than get bounced in the first round. I agree with this. If the options were get bounced in the first round or whatever, then yeah. Yeah. Fake cone, you're getting blocked. First of all, don't impersonate other people. And second of all, get your priorities straight. The Commanders, I have them in here. Let me go over it one more time. So race to 10. Eagles need 4 wins in 9 games. Commanders need 3 wins in 8 games. Vikings need 4 wins in 9 games. Lions need 3 wins in 9 games. Packers need 4 wins in 8 games. Falcons need 4 wins in 8 games. 49ers need 6 wins in 9 games. Rams need 6 wins in 9 games. Bears need 6 wins in 9 games. Bucks need 6 wins in 9 games. And the Cardinals need 5 wins in 8 games. So there you go. That's your race to 10. That's the race to 10. Matt says the way the trade deadline went for us shows the state of our team. They know they are multiple pieces away. Keep draft capital in 2025, retool, rebuild. Yeah, I mean, I'd rather not just give up draft pieces for a bunch of mid players. I mean, even the 7th round pick, it's like, okay, you couldn't have, there's not a defensive tackle on the free agent market that you could have gotten that is as good as Davis. Like that doesn't exist. I feel like it does. I feel like it does. So even giving up a 7th rounder doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, if they had traded, say, a 5th rounder for Godshow, that would have been even worse, I think. So you don't want to just give up a bunch of pieces. But I don't know that it does show exactly what the 49ers think. Because again, it all depends on what happened behind the scenes. I believe that they were trying to go after a big fish. I believe they were in on a guy like Simmons. I just don't think it was ever realistic, you know? And, maybe they were in on Ojolari or something like that. I think they were more in the defensive tackle market. So I think that they were probably in on Simmons, but the reality was Simmons was not going to get traded, barring offering multiple first round picks, which the 49ers would be smart not to offer. So it just wasn't realistic. And if you're not going to get a needle mover, then there's just no point in sending draft capital other places. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that at all. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. So that's how you end up with Khalil Davis. ID the Mike, it's a good name, says, hello, Jesse, a Cards fan here. Believe it or not, love the takes. And my favorite thing about you is you keep ish real. Appreciate you, man. I really do. I'm sure you found me from the round table. Thank you for coming over and supporting. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love the Niners. I do. And I think a lot of Niner fans would tell you that I'm a hater and they don't appreciate my content. But it's interesting because usually other fan bases love my content because they do feel like I keep it real and will just give my honest thoughts. I'm not afraid to talk good about a team that I don't like. I mean, I'll say that I hate them, and that is true, but I'm gonna objectively look at that team and decide whether I think they're good or not. I hate the Chiefs. They're great. I hate the Rams. I think they're probably gonna win the division. So, that's just the reality of it. I don't have to like them, but I'm going to go over and give my honest opinion, and some people will appreciate it and some won't. Boxing fan times 4 says they could have traded one of your subscribers for Khalil. I wouldn't have traded one of my subscribers for Khalil. Actually, maybe the guy that was just posturing his Grant, maybe I would have traded him for Khalil. It would have still been an L trade. Yeah, I wouldn't have traded one of my subscribers for Khalil. Not I. If I'm making the decisions, none of you are kicked off the island for Khalil. All right. I'm keeping all of you around. Don't worry. Don't you worry. That's funny. That's funny. Matt says he's getting killed. I'm getting killed for my Baker Purdy comparison. However, I'm getting more support today. Yeah, people are emotional. Listen, I speaking of people or teams or whatever that I don't like or didn't think would be good. And I was wrong. I didn't think Baker was going to be good in the NFL. I had Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson clearly ahead of him. That ended up being right. But I thought Baker would be out of the league in 5 years. I think that was actually close to being a possibility when he got shipped to the Rams, but he played well sparingly there and he's revived his career and he deserves all the credit in the world. I think he's matured a ton. I can tell you Tampa fans love him. And at the price you get him for, you can do a lot worse. Baker's a pretty good quarterback. He's a pretty good quarterback. And I think that Baker is closer to Purdy than what 49er fans would like to think. Obviously, they get it done a little bit differently, but Baker's pretty athletic. He's got a big arm. And I think when things are going great around him and he's got the pieces, he can play really well. Last night, he was without his top 3 wide receivers. against the Kansas City Chiefs in a rain game, and I think he played pretty well. I don't know what more you could want from Baker. Now, Baker's not the guy. He's not the guy. You don't want to pay him elite money, but he's pretty good. He's pretty good. I would personally take Purdy over Baker, but I think they're closer than what people would like to admit. I do. J Cash says we played it safe while the Rams already won a chip and are back as contenders. Yeah, but it's not like the Rams went out and made any moves. Like, did I miss something? The Rams traded Tre'Davious White, but the Rams are already a much better roster than they were last year. I know that they lost Aaron Donald, but they're better at the cornerback position than they were last year. I think top to bottom, their defensive line is actually better. And those two young guys, Verse and Fisk, are starting to play really well. Week in and week out. The last couple of weeks, they are exploding onto the scene. Obviously, they didn't have Cup and Puka together much of last year. They haven't either this year, but both those guys are now healthy. And they've got a Robinson, who's a damn good number 3 wide receiver, plus guys like Whittington, who's a rookie and improving, and Tutu Atwell. So their receiving core is better than it was last year. And their offensive line's a lot better. They literally were playing with one starter for like 3 weeks on the offensive line. And by next week, they're going to have all 5 starters back and healthy on the offensive line. So they were playing with one starter for up through the bye week, basically. They came back from the bye week and were playing with 3 starters. And then last week lost another one, but it's not going to be long term. He might miss a week. But by the end of next week, all 5 starters are going to be back on the offensive line. And now, because of injury, they've got 2 other guys that if somebody goes down, they can plug and play and really be pretty decent. So the offensive line has more depth. We know they can run the ball well with Kyron Williams, and Matthew Stafford's that deal, man. So yeah, the Rams are not going anywhere. They're not. They're going to be there. It's going to be fun. The 49ers Rams game is going to be super important. That 49ers Cardinals game is going to be super important. And both those teams, the Cardinals have a very favorable schedule down the stretch. They do. And both those teams already have a win over the 49ers. So the 49ers absolutely cannot lose to either the Cardinals or the Rams, or that's most likely a wrap for them. Now, I think they can beat both those teams. I do. And again, we're not talking a lot about CMC coming back. CMC is going to be back this week. How will he look? How long will it take for him to get back up to being CMC? Will he ever be CMC again? Or is 80% of CMC with 70% of the touches of what he would have gotten last year, is that good enough? What does Dre Greenlaw look like? When does he come back? I would assume he's probably back in the Packers game. I think that's probably a good target. So in about 3 weeks, what does he look like? How long does it take for him to be Dre Greenlaw? Or is he ever Dre Greenlaw again? And is 80% of him good enough? I would say 80% of Dre Greenlaw, like, let's say that's what it ends up being, much better than Campbell. I'll take it. That's a major upgrade. And I would say 80% of CMC is still a weapon that the 49ers could absolutely use. So the 49ers are going to get better by getting players back. The Rams are going to get better by getting players back. The Cardinals went and made a trade to get better, and they're going to be getting their rookie here soon. So they're going to be better. So all 3 of these teams presumably should be better down this stretch run, barring health. I mean, anything can happen tomorrow. But barring any major injuries, they all 3 of these teams are going to be better. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see who wins when these matchups happen. You know, the 49ers and Rams play on a Thursday night football game. Not ideal. Like, let's say that's for the division. That's not ideal. Thursday night game in division is not ideal for either team. That's not for the 49ers, for either team. Who wants the division decided on a Thursday night game? That's a possibility. It's a possibility. Roger says, I agree with the Cards fan take. Jesse keeps it real. I met him at the Rams-Niners game. Yes, sure did. And he was super generous with his time. Only negative thing about him is he likes the Niners. Fair enough, Roger. Fair enough. Yes, man. You're a good dude yourself, man. Thank you so much for introducing yourself. Really enjoyed meeting you and a lot of Rams fans. You guys were all super, super cool. Super cool. Appreciate all of you for showing a good time and not being idiots and fighting and doing a bunch of stupid stuff that's not warranted. But I appreciate you guys, Rams fans, Steelers fans, whoever you root for. Showing support to me is great. And I appreciate it from everybody. I really do. Thank you. Robbo says Kyler was a problem for our defense until Greenlaw takes his head off. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dang Dang says Ram fans are classy. I agree. At least the ones that I met. Yeah, that's true. 80% of Greenlaw is not one of the worst linebackers in the league. Yes. True. True, true, true. True, true, true. Rams own Southern California says Jesse's legit. Appreciate you, brother. What's the take? What's an awful take? Niners shouldn't be gridlocked with anyone in this division. It's just sad that they have a down year. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, how much would it suck if the 49ers do go 6-3 down the stretch, but they lose the wrong games and they miss the playoffs because of tiebreakers? That'd be tough. That would be really, really tough to watch. Frustrating. Like, they get hot, but it just took too long. You know what I mean? Just took too long. I think different voices, and this one's more of a network conglomerate. So this is a network that shoulder tapped us, that is trying to build something. I think pretty similar to a Chat Sports or a Locked On type situation. They're doing this for every team, and they have corporate backing. So I'm willing to try it out. We'll see how it goes. But this is still my priority. This is always going to be my priority. The shows here aren't going to change or be any less, but throw my name in as many hats as possible and see how it goes. See how it goes. Jim Everett says, Jesse, 49ers legit content, most accurate. Appreciate you. And then he says, hit the likes. Thank you. Thank you. Niners all day, y'all bandwagon AF. I guess. I mean, sure. I guess saying anything that's not positive about the Niners makes you bandwagon. Andrew Donato says probably the case this year. Yeah, you're talking about them winning down the stretch for sure. For sure. Taylor Gang says, Jesse, you truly are a real brother. You always were, always wear a cap, but you have great hair. No, did he? I know it's so funny. A lot of people are like, oh, do you even have hair? And so when I don't wear a hat, they're like, I didn't know you had hair. I thought you were bald. Which fan base is worse, Cowboys or Philly? I would say in person, Philly. The Cowboys are more delusional, though. The most delusional fan base is Cowboys. The worst fan base, like you probably don't want to be there, is Philly. I would imagine. The Cowboys are awful. When your quarterback says it, that's pretty bad. You know what I mean? Week 18 against the Cardinals is going to be a massive game. Who would have thought that coming into the season, Gab? Just that alone. That statement alone. Who would have thought that coming into the season? Crazy, right? Leo says, considering we don't know how the negotiations went, I still don't like the lack of moves, but the Davis kid is pretty good. Yeah, I mean, what do you consider pretty good? Like if there's bad, pretty good, good, really good, and elite, then yeah, I'd say pretty good ish is fair. But I don't know that it's gonna move a lot. But I agree. That's the thing is I the worst thing that could have happened, in my opinion, is the 49ers making no moves. Like either trade or don't trade. Now, technically, they made a move, but really, this is close to a non-move. But we don't know how things went behind the scenes, and we have to be fair to that. I'm of the belief that they really tried. They just swung and missed on a big name player, and you can't hate on them for trying. You really can't. Chris says, Jesse, you going to Buffalo by any chance? I had planned on going to Buffalo, but I don't have anybody that I know that is willing to go to meet me there. Nobody really wants to be in Buffalo in November, right? So that makes it tough. And then, yeah, it is. It's cold, and I'm used to warm weather. So I don't know that I want to be in Buffalo, although I would love to go. I think it would be cool to check Buffalo out. I really do. I think it'd be awesome. I don't know if you guys can hear my dogs, and if so, I apologize. They're going nuts. Chris, yeah, sorry. Says, gonna be my first Niners game, and I got some dope seats. Probably gonna freeze my butt off, but hopefully it's worth it going Saturday to get in on the pregame events. Definitely. If it's your first game, go to the Niners takeover. There's always a takeover. Go check it out. It's a good time. I think they do a good job with those. They'll raffle things off. They'll have, a live DJ. They get everybody hyped. You're just around a bunch of Niner fans. It's a lot of fun. And then I also think, just from a venue standpoint and an opponent standpoint, like if you're going to spend your hard-earned money to watch the 49ers, yes, you want to watch the 49ers. Like, that's number one. But I think number two is you want to see good teams. You don't want to go to your first Niner game and they're playing, I don't know, the Panthers. Like, that's not, first of all, Panthers is not a great venue to go to. I'm sure North Carolina is beautiful, but the venue itself's not a must see. And who are you watching on the Panthers that gets you excited? You want to watch a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes, a Saquon Barkley. You want somebody to watch and root against, but also know that you're witnessing a really good player on the other side, or really good players on the other side, and a fun fan base. So I hope you have a blast. I think you will. I would like to go to that game. I would, but there's a lot of reasons why I probably won't. Jesse, big fellow, what do you think about David joining the team? David who? You mean Davis? Davis, probably. Yeah, we talked about it early. I don't know. It's not a needle mover. We watched a little bit of him. You can go back and check it out if you want. We watched a little bit of film on him. There wasn't a lot because he didn't play a ton last week, but we watched a little bit. I don't know. It's meh. It's meh. Let's see. Matt says, I live in upstate New York and going to be at the Buffalo game in December is a choice. And going to a Buffalo game in December is a choice. Laugh out loud. Screw that snow and wind. Is it in December? Or is it late November? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think it's early December, huh? Yeah, just another body. Great one. Basically, you're just adding another body. Yeah. I mean, I would say so. They definitely need to get healthy for sure, bud. They do. They need to get healthy. Hell no to Buffalo November. Yeah, it's either late November or early December. I don't know the date that it falls on. Kilo TW says, not surprised the Niners didn't make any big moves. I feel like John and Kyle were on a short leash because of the whole Ayuk situation. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it went behind the scenes. You might be right about that. I think it's logical to think that. I do. So, Ender says, hey, Jesse, Trent usually isn't available for all the games in a season. Do you think he will be this year? How would his absence for a couple of games affect this team? It would be a disaster. And you're right. He usually does miss a couple games. But maybe this year will be different because he wasn't at camp. Maybe for him at his age, that was the best thing that could happen. That's a possibility. And I would think if a player's going to get injured, it would happen when they're not in shape. He's in shape now. I mean, we're at a point in the season where he's definitely back in shape. So I would say it's less likely. I'm certainly not going to predict injury, but if he were to go down for a couple games, it would be a disaster. It would be a disaster for a team that has to win at least 6 of their final 9 games to make the playoffs. It'd be a disaster. It would be. Absolutely would be. Jesse, I would go with you, but I'm afraid we would need to snuggle. It's that cold, huh? You know what? There's no way that my thin-blooded Florida body would handle it anymore. It's funny, like moving from Oregon. I remember when I first moved here and I would wear shorts in 60-degree weather and people would look at me crazy. Dude, if it's 70 or below, I'm wearing pants and a pullover. It's just different. After you live here for a while, your body just changes, and I can't do it. No, I don't think he's missed any games. Am I tripping? Trent hasn't missed any games. He's played every game. He's played every game. I'm pretty sure he's played every game. Let's see. Trent Williams stats. Let's check it out. Yeah, he's played every game. So we've seen it. The snow and wind from the Great Lakes sucks. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Should the 49ers have tried to trade for a tackle or Williams for the Jets rookie left tackle? Yeah, I don't think that would have gone over. I don't see why the Jets would make that trade. And I don't see why the 49ers would make that trade either. I mean, it sounds great in theory, right? Trade Williams for a rookie, get your rookie. But if you were going to get a rookie left tackle, you should have done that in the draft. Teams aren't really keen on trading rookies. I don't know how often that happens, if ever. So, all right, y'all, listen, I got to get to my son's baseball game, and then I've got shows tonight on the NFC West Roundtable. Come support the 49ers, NFC West Roundtable, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West. Come check it out. What are your thoughts about the trade deadline? Go ahead and put that in the comment section as soon as the video is posted. Love to hear your thoughts on not only the 49ers, but how other teams have improved and what that means for the 49ers. How confident are you that they make the playoffs is another one. Very, very curious to hear your thoughts. Appreciate you for rocking with me as always. As far as this channel goes, I will be back tomorrow, hopefully for Behind Enemy Lines. Still trying to figure that out. Much love. Peace. No, it's still going. All right. Hold on.